Jimenez with a high drive. Deep right center. Castellanos track. Wall. Gone! Andres Jimenez with a towering home run.
Swing and a miss. Tanner Bybee blows it by him. Swing and a miss. He got him to chase that time. A great changeup from Tanner Bybee.
And he swings and lines one to deep left field. This ball is gone! It's a line drive, grand slam home run into the Cleveland bullpen in left. And Jose Ramirez with the first grand slam of the year for Cleveland. The pitch, and he drives one to deep right center. There she goes! 4-0 Cleveland. How about that? Josh Naylor. A bomb last night to left center. A bomb tonight to right center.
What is up, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Living the Guard Life. I'm Jacob. That's Nick. Down below is Roger First and Cuyahoga Falls. We are brought to you, as always, by our friends over at Amed Apparel. I got the Flying G. I'm telling you, the Flying G on the navy shirt is just so clean. We got the Nick Chubb. Look at Rogers. Oh,
10-cent beer night, baby.
That is my favorite.
How do
I not have that shirt? That's a problem.
Hey, I got the Utah Get Me 2 hanging over there, and I got the Here for the Hot Dogs hanging over here. It's a homage all the way around tonight.
Hey, I'm always living for the hot dogs. Let's be real about it. Guys, so very, very good, successful day today, being Sunday, in our Discord for the betting community that we got going on there. They posted a lot of bangers, a lot of winners there. So if you want to check out the Discord, there's a link in the description down below, as well as a link to in the description of the homage Cleveland Guardians collection, so you can click on that as well. But if you want to check out the Discord, we got a lot of like rumors and all kinds of stuff going on with all kinds of Cleveland sports, Ohio State. But the most important thing in my mind for the Discord is the betting, the bet slips that they put in there, because they are posting winners all the time. It's going to make your $10 a month back, and then some. So check that out down below, gentlemen. It was a weird 4 days of baseball. And yes, we're going to get into all of that. But how are we doing on this fine Sunday evening?
Well, you know what? I did not think we would be taking this type of road to tonight's show. But, here we are. You are still half a game back. We'll get into baseball. But good. I got to say, Roger, so I witnessed Ross's epic rant on the Dog Chug about condiments and quality choices. And I thought of him today because I went to a barbecue, and sure enough, there was Bertman's mustard there for all the barbecue needs. And I'll tell you what, shout out to Ross. He was right, because that was just yellow mustard. Maybe would it have been as good? I don't know, but it was Bertman's, and it was delicious.
Nice. Yeah. Nice, Nick. You know what? If you're gonna, you got to come with the condiments, man. You got to come strong with the condiments, because that's the topper. You know, you can have a hot dog, you can have a burger, a brat, a sausage. It doesn't matter, man. If the toppings make it. And if you skimp and you pick up some yellow mustard and you squeeze it, and water runs out all over your dog because it's some cheap, value food mustard. I'm going home. I'm taking my GLBC that I brought to your cookout, and I'm going home. So you got to spend on the condiments, man.
Sure do.
How you boys doing, man? How you boys doing?
Dude, I'm feeling great. I will say one thing about a condiment. A condiment can actually save a bad piece of meat as well. Like, it could be like a really bad cut of a hamburger or a bad hot dog that's just like boiled or something gross, and you slap some, ketchup on there, some relish, whatever it is that suits your fancy. Even some chili. I like to do some Hormel chili. Just slabber that up on a dog. Go a Sonic the Hedgehog chili dog style. It's a little bit of cheese on there. I love Skyline chili too, so I love a cheese coney. I will slap that thing up on there. I don't even give a shit.
Right.
I'm going to start this conversation out with a joke.
Uh-oh.
All right, what's the difference between a dick and a bonus check? Someone's always down to blow my bonus.
You've been really on a.
Are you trying to what? Are you trying to do dog jug?
He's on a streak of dick related content, and for whatever it's worth, we
haven't got demonetized for it yet.
Jacob, I'll tell you what, though, in the last 2 months, our number 5 on the top 10 have been dick pic related. So you're on the same page of our number 5 on the top 10 for at least over a month now.
This gets a touch spicy,
So nobody's going to get paid these episodes.
That's all right. Like 5 people watch this show. Anyway, I'm just going for the haymakers. So the Guardians are in an interesting position. They end up splitting. Thank God they split that series, because if they had lost that series to Chicago, it would have been an even worse conversation to have. But through all of that, the Twins decided to get swept by the Kansas City Royals, which was a choice they made. And we sit here on this conversation pretty much where we were last week at 500. One big difference being the Amed Rosario trade that took place. Noah Syndergaard this episode release on Monday, so he will be starting today. Okay. If you're watching this on Monday, he'll be starting today. Very intrigued by that, because he hasn't really been healthy and his best days are somewhere behind him, but the Guards are really good at coaching up pitching, especially starting pitching. So I'm intrigued to see if they can work some of their magic on Syndergaard, because a handful of years ago he was as good as they come. So I don't know. I haven't seen him pitch since he was a Met probably. So I'm not sure what if it's fixable, what it is. I don't know, but we'll figure that out. So the Rosario gets traded there. We're going to have a conversation we'll end this show talking about the trade deadline. So let's talk about the games here up first. We'll talk about the trade deadline coming up as well. But it's funny that they continue to have stretches where those 2 games that they lost to the White Sox, especially, they were just bad games, man. You played some really bad baseball, even though they had some, what I thought was, dude, they get blanked on the day that I said I love this lineup, when they had Fry and Bo and Straw wasn't in center and I was jacked up, and then they get blanked by the damn White Sox. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should shut up. Man. But how do you feel, man? I'll start with you, Nick, and go to you, Roger. Just what's the overall vibe and feel around the Guardians right now?
I'm frustrated by this White Sox series. I know that the Guardians caught a break because of the Twins finally coming back to earth a little bit. They had been, I think on our last episode, we talked about the Twins having won 7 of 10 or something.
Yeah, they were pulling away a little bit.
Yeah, they were doing really well. So you get fortunate, and I feel like that's the Guardians' story with the AL Central overall, is that they've just gotten really fortunate. And my point of frustration comes from the fact that in the middle of this series, I think actually right as it started, the White Sox traded away 2 of the White Sox sent a message to their team and said, we are not playing for this year. I can't, I'm sorry, the names of the trade escape me right now. There's been a lot of moving parts in baseball. Well, but my understanding is that, 2 players that are contributing significantly, and the White Sox are waving the white flag.
Yep.
And so you have these 2 games where you can just muster absolutely nothing offensively, really. And I mean, I guess any team is going to go cold at times, and so I'm not going to expect the Guardians to hit all the time. But when you're playing a team that's literally saying 2023 is no longer our biggest concern, and I left last night, I think it was 1-0 because Andres Jimenez relayed this throw and they tagged the guy out at home plate, and I was like, okay, it's 1-0, that's fine. I looked later in the day and it was 5-2, and the previous game got out of hand even more so. And so I find a lot of frustration in that, just because when you're playing a team that knows that they're looking towards the future, you should be able to beat up on those kinds of teams. And the Guardians were not able to capitalize in this situation. I'm really glad they are just a game and half a game out. And today's game, I have it on right now. We're currently leading 1-0 in the bottom of the second. Like, that was way better. So hopefully they're going to build on, in that direction. But just leaving this series thinking the Guardians could be in first place right now.
They should be.
Yeah.
Roger.
Well, we watch them. We watch them play Texas. We watch them play the Phillies, and we watch them compete. And they're in them ball games, and they're scrapping. They're putting runs on the board in the 8th, 9th, 10th innings, winning ball games. And then they roll into the South Side, and they played at a level of competition this year. And that's something they didn't do last year. They handled their business last year when they played lesser teams.
Yep.
This year, they're kind of playing to the level of competition. That's kind of what they're a 500 baseball team. Fortunately, the Minnesota Twins keep stepping on their dick pic, and dropping games. And I can't blame the Guardians for the ineptitude of the Minnesota Twins and the Chicago White Sox,
Sure.
who were supposed to be the dominant teams of this division last season and this season. We're merrily playing 500 base. Tito keeps saying this every time I hear Terry Francona's talk. He says, we're trying to win games, win a division, and we're trying to nurture talent, build talent, coach talent, and bring these young guys along, and it's a fine line that they're walking. I don't know, man. I have been gatekeeping a little bit because I watch everybody on Twitter or X or whatever, and they're losing their minds, and I'm like, you didn't see this coming? This is how they do it. This is how. There's no big giant trade coming Tuesday. They may pick up another guy or two or a bat, you know what I mean? But Juan Soto isn't coming to the Guardians, man. You know what I mean? It's not happening. They're not ready to push all in yet. They're probably a season away from that. They still have to figure out the shortstop, because right now they're going to bounce Freeman and Reyes back and forth at shortstop. They're going to figure out which one is going to compete against Rocchio at shortstop. You know what I mean? Out of these two, because that's what they've been doing, is bouncing these two back and forth. They still have to figure out. Miles Straw's under contract. They have 5 more years. You know what I mean? They probably love to get Miles Straw going right, at least hitting 260 and having a strong lineup 1 through 6, where what Miles Straw does really doesn't matter. We're scoring runs. I think they're a year away, and there's a lot of people expecting them to push all in to try to win a World Series. And I think they're still, as an organization, they're not going to do something just because the Twins got swept by the Kansas City Royals. They're not going to do a knee-jerk reaction. They're just not going to do it. They've been conducting businesses the same way for 10 years. And if you've looked over the 10 years, you can see what they plan on doing this year,
And the good news is you get Chicago again next weekend in Cleveland. So maybe you can rectify that. You dropped 2 games to a 10-game team. Now you got Houston. That's going to be interesting. That's an interesting series heading to Houston. Thankfully, they're 8:00 first pitches, not like the opening 7 days where they were in Seattle. Opening day was at 10 p.m. and I was like, oh, cool. That was just so stupid. Who did that?
Why
Who
did
was
we start like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was like, you know what? This is what we're gonna do. I will say this, that though the numbers aren't, I think, as good as what I'll say this, Arias, I think, who has got the majority of the playing time so far since Rosario has been gone, has not been exactly crushing the ball, but I think he's been having really good at bats. Let me pull up the number today, because I believe he only ended up going, I thought he was 1 for, he's 1 for 4 today, but I was looking at a couple of metrics where it showed that he hit the ball all 4 times, exit velocity was like over 100 miles an hour on all 4 of his at bats. So he ended up like making some hard line drive outs and things like that, to where it was like, yeah, he only goes 1 for 4, but he had 4 quality at bats, which is what you're trying to see with a young guy like Arias, who I think he's a pretty good defensive shortstop. I'm not saying he's a Gold Glover by any stretch, but he's definitely an upgrade over what Rosario was in the field. And if he can figure out a way to get some of these at bats to fall, that's when you start getting into a conversation where you go from, we're trying to develop players and win games, to where players are developing enough to win games, where you're kind of seeing those, because that's what last year, and that's what the hopes of this year needed to be successful, was these young guys that are getting developed are playing good enough to where both winning games and developing players, kind of coincide, and they find a way to do it. And I really think that Arias is probably the future there. That's, if I had to pick, don't get me wrong, I love Tyler Freeman. Like, I do. I'm a big Tyler Freeman guy. But, like, I think Arias is the future there, so I think it's really nice to see him there. Though I would say, if we're not catching Bo Naylor, stop putting Cam Gallagher out there. I can't tell you how pissed I was that David Fry didn't play today. Because what are we doing, man? Like, you're wasting a roster slot on a third catcher. Like, I don't think you need a third catcher. Get me an outfielder or something. I don't need a third catcher. Anything. Give me George Valera. Yeah, let's do that. Let's bring him up, right? Like, just stop putting like I get it. You want to develop players. You're not developing Cam Gallagher.
That's a frustrating part. I still don't.
And you're not winning games. You're not getting either one of those things because of Cam Gallagher. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I was just a little fired up.
You're fine. Like, the other side of that coin is like, and what I think collectively fired everybody up was the Amed Rosario trade. And good luck to him in LA. But I think we could all agree, when you're looking at that trade, you say Rosario is not going to be here beyond this year. Even Jose Ramirez said that himself when he was asked about the
trade.
Rosario trade. Yeah. But so when you're playing Arias every day, and I wanted to bring up the stat, he got 10 at bats in the White Sox series. He got 3 hits. So when you're looking at, he batted 300 for the series. So that is letting guys develop and working on winning games. Because if you're batting 300 for the series, you're helping your team win. That's a good place to be, especially for a young player. But so when the trade happened, I tweeted that the Guardians were embracing the future, and people were attacking that point as if it was about Syndergaard. But it's not about Syndergaard. It is about getting this.
Arias.
Yes, it's all about Arias.
And Freeman.
And Freeman but really the lineup as a whole, right? Yeah. Because you're still the youngest team in baseball. Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so, most of these guys in your lineup now are hopefully going to be here in the long term. So the more experience you give them in these type of situations, the more you let these guys gel, especially when the alternative was a guy who was a huge minus as a defender, and on top of that wasn't going to be here. So why were we not playing Arias at this point? And yes, can we please play David Fry more? Because he was almost the reason that they came back and won that game not so long ago when he hit the home run. But he's been playing well overall. It's not just like about that one at bat. So my whole point is I believe that with that trade and with what the lineup they're trotting out there right now, at least for the most part, hopefully the entire part, Jacob, but at least for the most part, they're starting to move forward now.
Yeah. I think so.
I saw the tweet and I was like, I wanted to go in so bad. And yeah, you were talking, they took it as you were saying that Noah Syndergaard is going to put us over the hump, that he was putting us, and that's how they took it. And I'm like, well, he's talking about opening up the shortstop position to figure out who our guys going to be, and the thing about Syndergaard is that you're mid-season. He's always been in the NL, and he's coming to the American League. And there's a lot of hitters that have absolutely no idea, never faced him, So that's big working in his favor. Because because it's going to take a while to get a book on him if you're an American League hitter. You know what I mean? So that's huge in that trade. I think it's going to bode well for the Guardians. But, Nick, you're absolutely right, man. It opened up the possibilities of finding our I don't want to say franchise shortstop, but our shortstop. You know, who's going to replace Lindor? Everybody thought, I think that's what the hatred for Amed Rosario was, is they expected the replacement for Frankie Lindor to come right out of that trade. You know, because Rosario actually started out in left field. When they had him in left field to start, when he played some left field for us, and Lindor's replacement or immediate replacement wasn't whether Jimenez moves to shortstop next year is yet to be seen. Sure. You know, I know he can handle it. He signed a second base contract extension. I'm sure his agent would want more money, and so would he if he moved to shortstop. It's not just as simple as sliding over, and I wouldn't expect Jimenez to play shortstop for second base money. You know what I mean? So there's a lot there that has to be looked at. But it did. It gave Amed Rosario, he actually went 2 for 4 his first night. They put him at shortstop out in L.A., and he went 2 for 4, and he fit right into that lineup, you know. He's a professional hitter. But there's no future here for him. And the thing about Amed Rosario that I loved, and you guys know how much I loved him, is he knew it. He knew his days were numbered here, and he still went out and he gave 1,000% every night.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, and I had like kind of 500 some likes on a post about him that someday you're going to appreciate what he did for these young ball players and showed them and demonstrated how to be a professional.
I know.
Go ahead, Nick.
I just wanted to add to your point, Roger. I know I listened to Andre Knott talk a lot when he's been interviewed on local radio, and they talked about how Andre talked about how Amed was really good with both Spanish and English and was a real bridge for the guys that maybe their English isn't so good and like really helping them communicate with one another. And so that, like, I think that speaks to the type of there were a lot. And Roger, I think you really deserve your credit here because you pointed out a lot of the great pieces to Amed who really just felt like he took heat from 90% of Twitter in his final weeks with the team. Whereas you really stood steadfast. So bravo to you. You know, you stayed, and I was glad it was well.
It wasn't deserved. It was unfair, and I think a lot of it is because people expected him to be Frankie's replacement, you know, immediately, or his replacement to be immediate from that trade, and they put him at shortstop, and they're like, hey, this isn't elite. Well, they knew that. You know what I mean? But what he contributes and what he gave to the young guys, to that clubhouse, and everything he did, and you see Jose's kind of in, you know, he had a couple tough days after that trade. You know, they were very close, man. They were really close.
So he hit 2 massive bombs.
Amed Rosario is a big league ball player, man. He's a big league ball player, and he loves the game of baseball. And I'm glad that I had an opportunity to watch him play for my team, to be honest with you.
Okay, so questions around the circle before we go to week's predictions. Nick was the only one to get his prediction right. So he ties me for first place, 2 for 5.
2 for 5. 2
and 5. And Roger continues to curse pitchers and fall to 1 and 6.
What happened, Roger? What happened?
If David Fry had played today and maybe got a hit or so, I would have been sitting at 3 and 4. But instead,
really,
yeah, because his average dropped to 284. So dropped out of the 300 mark. Okay. I don't have much to say. Buyers, sellers, or stay put at the trade deadline. Rosario was the only one that there is a chance they trade Savali. I don't think they ultimately do it. He's the only tradable asset in my mind because I don't see you giving up prospects because they have so many prospects that they're working through and uncertain of right now at both levels. It doesn't make sense to me. So I'll ask you guys each, are they buyers or sellers, or do they stay put? Because for me, I don't think they do anything.
I think they stay put. I think we saw out of them what we were going to get. And I am glad that they are fully embracing the youth, or mostly embracing the youth. And I feel like that's a step forward. I'd like them to be buyers, but just the way things have gone. Like, if you told me that Bieber and McKenzie were healthy right now, I think they'd be more likely to be buyers in this position. But just given the state of the pitching staff, it just feels like this isn't going to be that year where they would push all their chips in the middle of the table. And honestly, if I'm being reasonable about it, I can't blame them for that. So at least you moved Ahmed. You're getting Arias time. You're going to see maybe Jimenez ends up at shortstop. Who knows? But the options are there now because you made that move. So I'll call that a win. And we'll see what happens with Syndergaard.
Yeah, you never know. It could be fun. Roger?
Man, I think if they make any kind of moves, it'll be a low-level move. I know they're not going to, it's not going to be any kind of blockbuster. So I think they're just going to stand pat. Somebody said this the other day, is they can't, well, I know who said it now today. It was Chuck. They can't win what they need to do something. They can't win with this lineup. And it was after Amed was gone. It was pretty much all the people all of Twitter wants into the lineup. And they're going to bounce back and forth between Cam Newton, because Tito, the other day, he made it clear he's one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. The first thing out of his mouth when he was talking about the three catchers was Cam Gallagher is one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. I knew as soon as, and I'm just with you, Nick, on that. But as soon as it came out of his mouth, I said Gallagher's not going anywhere. And they're going to keep with the shortstop rotation, the outfield where Straw's going to be sitting or he's going to be playing. Brendan's going to be. You're going to watch us all year. They're in the middle of, like you said, Jacob, trying to win a division and bringing along young guys and getting them at bats. And I think and if they happen to win the division along the way, so be it.
Yep. Sounds good to me. All right, let's go around the horn. Let's go around the horn to wrap it up. Nick, you're up first as being the only one that's got a dub in like 3 weeks. So go ahead. What do you got?
All right, I'm gonna go back to the well, and this may sound really simple, but because Noah Syndergaard had an ERA of like 7.
It's like 7.6 or something.
7.6. So in his debut start, I'm gonna say 3 earned runs or less for Mr. Syndergaard. And that may seem pretty simple, but I feel like given where he's come from and the way people have slandered him already, that feels like a big deal if you allowed 3 runs or less in his first start.
I think so. Look at that tan line from my watch. You see that? Look at that. Roger, look at the tan line on my wrist from my watch.
Oh, my goodness. Look at that.
That's a working man's.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, that's from cutting grass and stuff today. Roger, what do you got? Give me a prediction.
Look like a truck driver with your arm out the window.
Yeah. Well, it's from the.
Well, I'm looking at. We got the White Sox, we got the Astros, then the White Sox, and then the Blue Jays before we're back here, right? Well.
Yeah. Well, we'll have the Astros and the White Sox.
Right. I say we're going to take. You know what? I think we're going to win the series in Houston. How about that?
Okay, let's go. Beating a good team.
Once again, they're going to play to the level of competition.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the thing. I've been sitting here as a big Aaron Savali guy. I've been thinking that that's where I was going to go for a while. I'm like, I think I'll do a Savali thing. I've gone back and forth, and I haven't bet on my guy in a while. So give me 5 Josh Naylor ribbies this week.
Let's go.
Give me 5 RBIs for Naylor.
Okay.
All
That's
right.
good. I like it.
It's like you got to write it down too. You got to write down Josh and not because like I'll be like, what did I mean by that?
I keep burying myself because I was going to say 4 out of the next 6 we're going to win, but it's when we come back next week we're going to be, and then I go ahead and I say we're going to sweep the Astros. So I'm a homer.
Well, you said win the series, so I feel like they could win the series. And
I said we'll win the series. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And I feel like we'd be feeling collectively. It sounds like we're feeling pretty good about where the team's going. You got Jacob saying Naylor's going to have 5 ribbies. You're saying we're going to win the series. I'm saying Syndergaard's going to start pretty well. If those 3 things happen, we're going to be really happy by the time we're here next week.
Yeah, well,
I should have went with the Syndergaard. Yeah.
Roger, I see you've got the glove out. I think we're to the point where we've got closing thoughts. You got any for us, Roger?
Man, you know what? I have to stop. I just want everybody to enjoy baseball over the next week, man. We're at each other's throats. I've been arguing all weekend with people on Twitter, and it's really it takes the fun out of it. I'm turning over a new leaf, and it's they're playing good baseball, man. And I get tired of people being down on it. It just gets tiresome.
Okay.
But let's enjoy some baseball. We'll be back here next week.
Let's win some games.
Good.
It's going to be great. Jacob, you got any closing thoughts for us?
I will after you set me up for it.
I will. I just want to my final thought here. That something I caught over the weekend was that the Guardians are leading the MLB in year-over-year increased attendance, which is a true testament.
That ballpark pass, man.
That ballpark pass. $50 a month, whole month long standing room, and it's just good for them. It's wonderful to see that the you know what, Roger, I feel like on Twitter sometimes we can be trapped a little bit in negativity, but obviously Cleveland fans are excited about this baseball team. Good things are ahead. I feel better after having done this. So with that being said, this has been an episode of Living the Guard Life. I'm Nick, he's Jacob, that's Roger. Thanks for living the Guard Life with us.
In the 1800s, ketchup was actually prescribed as a medicine for people suffering indigestion. Roger?
Catch you next week.